All right, so this is basically going to be like a part 2 video, but it's not really. So you remember the video that we did that was going down through my entire lineup of saws? Well, I spent half a day doing that video and I felt like I wasn't done. So I have actually spent the last week working further on that, basically fine-tuning chains and so forth, and really coming up with my final decision on how I'm going to set everything up. So different saws are going to be set up different ways, and I'm going to kind of give you my final results because I did some testing. I did, in fact, I'll be throwing up some side-by-side footage here towards the end of the video, and kind of do like a voiceover explaining everything. Well, some of it. I didn't video very much of it, so I'm going to have to kind of do like a voiceover and explain my findings. It just got to be too involved trying to video every little thing. I would have ended up with 20 videos, and I didn't have enough time, you know what I mean? So I'll just kind of give you the quick rundown. We're going to go through here. I got my saws all lined up here on the picnic table because I've been testing. So, you know, taking them in and out and everything. So we've been testing 3/8. All the 325 saws are pretty much going to be, well, they're all going to be 7-pin 325 steel RS, or my sharpening on steel RS chain, one or the other, but probably going to be just my sharpening one because I have tested it in my sharpening in Steel's 23 RS. There's very, very, very little difference between my sharpening and steel chain now. I have been really working to copy Steel's 23 RS sharpening, and I've pretty much got her nailed, and that's something we will go over here in the future. So all my 325 chains are good. The Wild Thing chain, I'm still tweaking on it, but it's like 90%. I'm thinking about taking it to a 325 as well. So we'll see how that goes. But here, let's go over all the chains here, all the bars, everything down through the lineup, and I'll tell you what our final results are going to be. Some of you might be surprised and some of you might not. But I mean, we had some interesting results. So yeah, here, check it out. Now, I don't make any promises I get this video out before the races. You know, I've been busy, and I've actually got a lot of footage that I've been trying to put together for you and get out before the races. So I don't know if this one will make it out before the races. We might end up releasing this video after the races. So just bear with me on that. But we're gonna kind of go down the line here, and I'll kind of explain to you my results. So the 660 clone is going to be running a C83. It's going to have an straight up out of the box C83, no raker adjustments, no nothing. Yeah, well, actually I discovered that I'm not going to run any raker adjustments on any of the C83 chain I run. I'm better off to go to an 8-pin before I start playing with rakers. I did discover that little thing. I'm finding better results by going to an 8-pin other than going with a raker adjustment, because the raker adjustment, I mean, as soon as you start touching them rakers, the chain really wants to get wild on you, start getting chattery and stuff. So I'd rather keep it smooth and just go to an 8-pin. And some of the saws will end up on an 8-pin and some of them won't. So the 660 will not be on an 8-pin. It'll have C83 chain, but it'll be on the 7-pin setup. Whereas the 385, it'll be C83 with an 8-pin setup. That, you know, it seems to prefer the C83 on the 8-pin, which I've been running that saw on an 8-pin for a while anyway. So yeah, really nothing much going on there, right? The 036, just a straight up out of the box C83 chain on that saw. That's the sweet spot for that one. The 372 clone here, this is my sharpening, and the Pull-In Pro. This is my 48mm pull-in build. So they are both set up on my sharpening right now. Actually, the rest of these saws have my sharpening one on, but I'm going to be changing them. So both of those saws are going to get changed to C83. They're both going to go C83 8-pin. because they have a little bit of that top end grunt that I think the 8-pin, well, the 8-pin is going to be better off for those guys. So stock out of the box C83 in 8-pin form. And we ran into an issue with the pull-in here because it was outrunning the C83. It was outrunning it because of the raker, the aggressiveness of the raker. It did not like it. So the chatter started taking over on that saw, and it started out cutting the chain. So I had to get it to smoothen up in order to get it to perform better. So whenever I put my chain on, my chain's smooth, so of course it performed better. But it's actually easier for me to just run it as a C83 setup on an 8-pin. So that's how both of these saws are going to go. They're going to both go C83 with 8 pins. The P70 is going to be on C83, but it's going to stay with a 7-pin. So yeah, pretty simple setup there. Same thing with the Dalmar C83 on a 7-pin. And my G366, I might put it on C83, but I'm probably, this is my square hand file chain. I'm probably going to go ahead and leave it on it though. So probably just going to leave it right exactly as it is with my square hand file, 7-pin sprocket setup. But yeah, I'm finding that I'm better off to go bigger on the sprocket than to start playing with the rakers with the C83. And you're about to see why. I'm going to show you some footage that's going to explain that. All right, so here is the inside secret on why some folks can do good on the grinder and some folks cannot. So the flat part here of your wheel, this is your top plate right here. Whenever you play with this and this knob right here, this sets your tilt function here. This is your top plate. This is the angle in which you're going to cut up under your top plate. The rounded part here, this is your gullet, okay? This is what's going to cut in your gullet. But the thing you got to realize here, this is the self-feeding function of the chain, the rounded part here. So whenever you dress your wheel, if you dress this wrong, you could end up rounding it off up into here too far and end up cutting way deeper than what you need to in order to make, everything work properly. And you end up with a chain that has too much self-feed. If you don't do it enough, you end up with a chain that don't have any self-feed. So the trick is to get, whenever you redress this, is to get it just right. And if you look here, there is a corner cut into this wheel the whole way around. If you don't have that corner cut into the wheel, you're probably going to run into some problems with that. This corner that's cut into the wheel the whole way around, so whenever you dress it, you end up cutting this corner around here. That is your corner on the tooth. So you match this corner with the corner of your tooth, and that's how deep you go into the tooth. If you go too far, you're going to cut that corner down too far into the gullet, and it'll screw with your self-feed, because now your self-feed angles are coming off of the side of the grinding wheel instead of the rounded part like they're supposed to. Now, the amount that you round this over will affect how much self-feed you put into the chain. So that's another thing that you can kind of play with over time. This is what you need to work on. I'm going to go to there. This is the thing. Whenever you redress your stone, that's probably where you're having your issues, and you're probably also not cutting this corner into the corner of the tooth. You're probably going too deep or something like that. That's where the most common issues are going to be with trying to get a fast chain off of a round grinder. So today you're going to get to see what mine can do. All right, so what you're seeing here is a video. I had started to make it as like a video to show like what would I have to do in order to make a chain outperform C83 in a modified version, like a C83 that had a raker adjustment. And that's kind of what this started out like. but I'm gonna go through this. So what you're seeing here, these cuts here are all C83 with a raker adjustment. And I'm just kind of making my baseline cuts to try to, show you like a chain that will outperform C83. So here's my grind. So you're going to see two different versions of my grind. This is an extremely aggressive grind of mine. This is what it takes in order to get something to clearly outperform a C83 grind, which I'll show you the side-by-side here in a second. But you're also going to see a more mellow version of my grind, something that pretty much is about the same speed as C83. It outperforms C83 in a stock form, but it's about the same speed as a C83 that's had a raker adjustment. So you're going to see some of that as well. But I'm finding that playing with the rakers on C83 really causes it to start picking up a lot of chatter. And I'm also finding that it depends on the species of wood that, it just, sometimes it doesn't work. So here you're actually going to see my grind, my more aggressive one, clearly outperform the C83. It's not recommended. I'll just say that. That chain does not feel pleasant at all, but it clearly outperforms the C83. But as soon as I get into the softer wood, it's about the same speed. And I'm fairly certain that's just because of the chain's ability to clear chips just isn't quite there. Well, this one here that you're looking at is basically my typical grind that you'll see pretty much on every video you see me do. This is the grind right here. It's nothing, spectacular, but it is a faster grind. I do have another grind that I'll do that's more of a firewood, much more durable and stuff. But this in here is what I'll do if I wanted to be a little faster. So this is what you're looking at here. Just one of my grinds that I run all the time. And you're going to get to see how it compares to the C83 with a raker adjustment. But here it is on some softwood. And this is where I'm finding that this grind falls short, is as the woods get softer, it's just not quite as good as what a C83 could be. And that's one of the things I'm finding, is that I'm finding one grind works great on one wood, but not on another. And you really start chasing it if you want to try to find something that works good on all species, So this is just my regular typical grind, like I just showed you, up against that C83 that had the raker adjustment. My grind is definitely smoother, and it cuts, pretty much the same speed. So that's kind of the chain that you see me run a lot. But if you see it here on some softer stuff, you'll see that it is slower. It just doesn't plow through the softer stuff quite as well. And that's something, you can find yourself really chasing it, But I decided to go C83 for the races. So yeah, to the races with C83 for pretty much everything. I'm actually gonna do it through sprocket adjustments and not raker adjustments. I was thinking it was going to be the other way around originally, but nope, we're going to do it with sprocket adjustments. So some of these saws, C83 is fairly smooth whenever it's in stock form, and it doesn't have quite as hard of a pull. So it seems to prefer it whenever I go to, the 8-pin. But I'm finding that I'm basically just chasing it. So on one species of wood, it prefers a chain set up this way. Another species of wood, prefer a chain set up this way. In fact, I have them all the different versions lined up here on the table on those saws right now. So like the 660, if we're in some, soft wood, like say they set us up with some cottonwood or something like that, that chain that's on that 660 will outperform C83 in any version, any day of the week. It is set up with, a larger ability to clear chips. And, I could technically just start swapping the chain down through different saws, through the races. Like I could technically take everything I have here, knowing what each chain is set up and what each chain performs best on, and you know, just change chains as needed. I could definitely do that. Like the chain that's on the 372 that I grind. That one there, as long as the wood is softer, that chain will outperform C83 by a mile. So, and the same thing with the one that's on the Poland, my 48 millimeter Poland. That chain on softer wood, it will outperform C83 by a long mile. So maybe I should just take them all, which, hey, probably will. I'll probably just take them all, label them, you know, put a little piece of tape on them, label them what saw they came off of or whatever. And I could even put them on different saws or whatever. The chain is set to the bar, so I just swap the bar from saw to saw. In fact, everything there will use a Husky mounts except my my 660. It's got that steel mount, but I have Husky mount adapters for steel bars. So, you know what I mean? It's literally just a matter of swapping bars out through saws. And I've got all sorts of different versions that I could choose from, you know, to make my races and stuff. But I'm going to have a stock form C83 with me set up, ready to go, because that right now is the one I'm planning on running. So unless the wood appears to be considerably softer than what I'm expecting, then I plan on running the C83. And if the wood does get softer, you'll see me running a different chain. It's just, you know, we're going to make that decision when the time comes. So yeah, a little video here on chain. And one of those things, there's no one chain that's faster for everything. You'll find one that's faster on oak, and it might suck for the softer stuff compared to another one, you know? So you'll see some folks are like, well, my grind is the fastest, or my grind's the fastest. You'll see this guy say my grind's the fastest. And what I'm finding is the species of wood, the hardness of the wood, all that stuff plays just as much of a factor as anything else. You'll get one chain to perform great on this wood, but it'll suck on this wood compared to this chain that doesn't perform as great on this one. And it might outperform on this one. You know what I mean? They're going to change constantly depending on what kind of wood you're cutting and everything. And it's hard to find one chain that works on every species, you know? That's just the way she is. So that's one of the things that playing with this chain and experimenting on different woods and everything, it's one of the things that help us get better. So yeah, hey, I hope you enjoyed this one. Later.